Hey guys, I thought I'd do a quick video update on a few interesting things that have happened over the last few days. So let's have a look. Now, over the last 24 hours, everyone has been very excited about another institution that has put their actual cash, some of their cash into Bitcoin. This time it's Mass Mutual. It's an insurance company from the US, and people are understandably very excited about this. While this is good news, though, for me, it overshadows another more interesting headline, which is related to some of the previous videos I made. I think that this is a lot more exciting than the Mass Mutual announcement, because I think we're going to see one a week and get to a point where we see one a day of Fortune 500, certainly medium sized companies looking to move their cash assets into Bitcoin as a store of value. Probably Bitcoin and maybe some of them Ethereum, but that's fairly predictable for the next 12 months. This is something I've been going on about for almost a year, and let me just start by saying it's good to have a bit of a win streak. So those of you who have been watching my videos, all 12 of you, uh, I'm on a bit of a win streak here. I said that in January this year, a couple of things. When Ethereum went to $80, people were actually saying it's dead. I know it's difficult to believe now. People were saying Ethereum 2 will never launch. They were wrong. I called the bottom of the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio last August. I said that that's just going to go up, and that is why Ethereum is a great investment. I also said that last 18 months, 2 years, Bitcoin's not dead, will become a store of value, seen by institutions as a store of value. However, my interest is in macroeconomics. The prize, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is that global reserve currency, which has been held by the US dollar for about 70, 80 years, ever since the end of World War II, when we had the Bretton Woods moment. Now, you'll remember in previous videos, I mentioned that it wasn't really a fair system, even with Bretton Woods, and certainly after 1971, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, and the US dollar inflated a lot. Countries didn't want to be held to the petrodollar. The problem is that they didn't have a choice. The US dollar was not backed by gold. However, it was backed by the US military, and this was a bit of a problem. And we knew that rogue states would be looking at an alternative, and for the first time in decades, they do have it. And it's unfortunate. Now, if you live in Iran and Venezuela, I'm not calling it a rogue state. Obviously, in the West, it would be seen as a rogue state. So it just depends on which side of the line you fall on. I'm not making any judgments here, right? Just keep that in mind. This is not a political channel. However, I said when we first heard that Iran had unbanned Bitcoin, and then we got the news last week that Venezuela was actually investing in mining. The actual government was saying, go ahead and mine, and we're actually going to do some Bitcoin mining ourselves. I didn't know about Turkey. We knew that Russia and China and India have been hoarding gold, which is a sign that they're not happy with the current reserve currency status, how we do macroeconomic trade. But we've also seen news coming from those countries around Bitcoin. I'll get to that in a minute. I theorized in my video, Iran adopts Bitcoin. Bitcoin is now the global standard, that they're probably paying each other in Bitcoin. And I put out a tweet where we saw there was a shipment of goods from Iran to Venezuela. It couldn't have been oil, because Venezuela and Iran both are oil producing nations, very famously. It had to have been something else, and I'm sure if the article mentions it. However, we got this yesterday. This came out on the 11th of December. It's actually this morning, sorry. That Venezuela is actually paying for imports from two countries, which also means that two nations are willing to accept Bitcoin as tender for their goods and services. This is massive news, right? And that would be Iran, Turkey, and Bitcoin. They're doing it to evade sanctions. I'm not going to pass comment on the political aspect. Apologies, there's a chopper outside. I don't know if you can hear that. I wonder if it's the CIA. Let's hope not. And it says here, right, there we go. Nicolas Maduro is actively mining the currency, right? And it's a bit of a shame in some ways that these nations are poised to overtake some of the more developed, the Western nations who may be late to the party. This is a much bigger announcement than this. Trust me, we're going to see one of these a week, eventually one of these a day. This will become very common. That's my prediction in 2020. But we've crossed the threshold now. Started with MicroStrategy. Michael Saylor will go down in history as one of the captains of industry that got this thing going, and good for him. I enjoy watching him on his podcast. I actually messaged him and said, "Don't you want to do an interview? See if he responds." Right? I don't think he will. But this is massive. This is a lot bigger because this. Let me tell you something. Right? If you think that companies are going to go crazy, buying up all the Bitcoin, driving up the price, not leaving enough for the average man to buy. If it's seen as legal tender, or acceptable tender between nations, you've got no idea what actual nation states are going to do. Central banks, they're going to go crazy. The thing is, I don't think the Western nations will admit it publicly for a very long time. So the next massive event that has to happen is I don't want to say non-rogue, I'm not implying anything against these two, but you know what I mean and where I'm going by that. But when a country that is not seen as in this light, let's say France or Singapore or Dubai, Singapore and Dubai are very blockchain friendly. They come out and say, yeah, we're holding Bitcoin in the central bank, part of our government assets, and we're happy to do a bit of trade, settle some trade balance of payments using Bitcoin. That is going to be the biggest news for Bitcoin that you've ever seen. It's going to make MicroStrategy look like peanuts. Believe me. And this says to me, I said it in the other video, but this is actually now confirmation of what I predicted in the other video, okay, and in my tweets. This says to me that it's already a global currency. The moment you have nations, it doesn't matter who those nations are, it doesn't matter what you and I may think of those nations. If a handful of nations are trading using Bitcoin, bam, floodgates can only open after this. Okay, so this is highly topical. This is the big news earlier today, 11th of December. Now coming back to Russia, China, and India, we're seeing some interesting things. I put out another video a few days ago saying, while this is all great, if you think it's a smooth ride from here and it's going to be smooth sailing, the real attacks on Bitcoin only begin now. 2021 will be probably a very difficult year for Bitcoin as governments, regulators try to either stop it or really curtail and control it. We're still not over that phase yet, believe it or not. And this is Putin basically ordering public officials to report cryptocurrency holdings, expect more regulation. News from India is not negative. This is a little bit more positive. India's banks are once more serving traders and exchanges. Previously, they would close down accounts. I think India knows, as a nation that historically was a big gold nation, India has some of the biggest gold reserves in history. That's always been a strength of India. Individuals hold it. From a cultural perspective, I can tell you that seen as a store of value and wealth, obviously the country itself. They know that if gold is going to take a hit, that traditional position that they've built up in gold then becomes at risk. And from a macroeconomic standpoint, you banking on saying, we're fine, we've got massive gold reserve, and that's now in question for whatever reason, you're going to have to look at it. And I think people in India are looking at Bitcoin now at government level. And that's going to be very, very interesting to see how this plays out. For me, this is big. This is the biggest news. The most bullish sign that I've seen in a long, long time is this, believe it or not what everybody else is saying. On my channel, I say things that other people don't say. My interest is more macroeconomics and supply side economics, Austrian economics, and you'll get a slightly different line. But as I said, I've had a good run. So I predicted just to end off, I predicted the bottom of Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. I put out this video in Jan, which I need to do a follow-up on, tracking progress on a sheet, where I said Ethereum would be the best investment of 2020. I've been proven right. It hit $87. If you bought at $87, I mean, it's almost at $600 today. I said that the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio is the best way to get more Bitcoin. You buy Ethereum and it was at 0.016. You convert it to Bitcoin as it goes up. If it gets to 0.1, which is not the all-time high, it's not even close, 10 Ether coins get traded for 1 Bitcoin, right? And that's a strategy that I'm still going to talk about in future videos. And I've said that I covered the MicroStrategy thing, but then I also said macroeconomic news is important. I predicted when we first heard about Iran that we're probably using Bitcoin as a global currency. Today, this actually proves it. So stay around if you like this type of news. Hit like and subscribe, and you can join the dozens of people who subscribe to my channel, right? So that was just a quick video, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed that.